Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into something literally all of us do, but probably don't think twice about. Until now. We are objectively unpacking a massive recent investigation that details the hidden, honestly pretty shocking practices of major UK supermarkets. If you're the kind of focused learner who wants to know exactly what is happening behind the scenes of your weekly shop, you're definitely in the right place. We're going straight to the data. It's a pretty heavy question to kick things off with, right? Are your groceries actually safe? I mean, we completely rely on these massive chains to feed our families, but recent undercover investigations, consumer surveys from Which, and Food Standards Agency records are revealing a really shocking decline in food safety and retail practices all across the country. The data strongly suggests that the traditional supermarket system we've trusted for decades is quietly collapsing right under our noses, driven by financial engineering and corporate greed. Okay, let's dive right in. Here's our roadmap for today. First up, the broken grocery system. Next, how supermarkets are being crushed by corporate debt. After that, we'll look at surveillance and loyalty traps. Then, we'll expose some fake ethics and marketing illusions. And finally, we'll wrap up with the data on exactly where you should shop instead. Let's start right at the foundation. Section 1. The broken grocery system. Just look at these visceral shock points, which come directly from the source material. We're not just talking about a bruised apple here. We're talking about food old enough to have a passport. Investigators found items sitting on shelves literally 18 days past their use-by date. You've got entire store locations receiving 0-star hygiene ratings, which means urgent improvement required. And all of this is happening right alongside a 26% national spike in E. coli cases, forcing massive brands to issue urgent recalls on ready-to-eat foods. The core takeaway here is that doing your standard single weekly shop blindly at one megastore, it's fundamentally broken. So, why exactly is this happening? Section 2. Crushed by corporate debt. Just wrap your head around this number. £390 million. That staggering figure isn't a revenue goal or a profit margin. No, that is Asda's 2025 interest bill alone. After being bought out and loaded up with massive amounts of debt by private equity, the company went from making a solid profit to losing nearly £600 million in 2024. And here's the thing, when a company owes that much in pure interest, they have to extract that money from somewhere. The data shows it's coming straight out of the stores through massive staff cuts. Customers are taking them out for us. This quote from an actual Asda employee just perfectly captures the human consequence of all that corporate debt. Because managers are forced to run these massive stores on absolute bare-bones staffing models. We're talking sometimes just one employee covering 5 entire aisles. Dates simply aren't being checked. The workers aren't incompetent, they're just completely drowning. And as a result, everyday shoppers are unwittingly acting as quality control, finding the dangerous expired food themselves. The sheer scale of the financial drain here is honestly mind-blowing. While Asda blew £800 million on a failed IT project that literally stopped workers from getting paid properly, Morrisons is sitting on around £3 billion in net debt from their own private equity buyout. That massive debt servicing directly strips away basic health standards. When you have to cut staff just to pay off your investors, well, the cleaning stops. And that is exactly how Morrisons locations ended up with those catastrophic 0-star hygiene ratings. Moving right along to Section 3, surveillance and loyalty traps. While Asda and Morrisons are out there struggling with debt, market dominators like Tesco and Sainsbury's are playing a totally different game. They're leveraging their massive market share to enforce two-tier pricing and some deeply invasive data collection. Just look at this stark comparison regarding quality. Tesco heavily markets an Aldi price match scheme, right? Sounds great. But when an investigation tested their chicken nuggets, the Tesco value nuggets contain just 39% chicken. Aldi's contains 60% for the exact same price. Tesco basically uses its market dominance to offer significantly lower quality meat, essentially selling water and filler under the illusion of price matching. Because they own so much of the market, they just don't have to compete on actual quality. At Sainsbury's, the contrast between the corporate suite and the store floor is just as jarring. 184 years. According to the investigation, that is exactly how long an average Sainsbury's employee would have to work just to match the CEO's £5 million pay package. And the kicker, that massive payout occurred at the exact same time the company was cutting 1,500 jobs, all while customers were actively reporting slimy vegetables and E. coli contaminated hummus. But here is where it gets really wild. The source material highlights Sainsbury's rollout of Face Watch facial recognition technology. You walk in to buy a pint of milk and boom, your face is instantly captured. It's immediately checked against a live police database. And even if you aren't a match, your data is logged and accessible to a dedicated police intelligence unit that is literally funded by the supermarkets. It is a completely dystopian biometric checkpoint system, and it's sold to the public as a way to save pennies on shoplifting while treating everyday innocent shoppers as active suspects. Which brings us to Section 4, Fake Ethics and Illusions. Marketing versus reality. You know, it's not just the budget brands or the massive mega chains playing these games. Brands like Co-op, Waitrose, and Iceland heavily market themselves on ethics, premium quality, or budget convenience. But the data tells a very different story. Take the Co-op, for example. Their entire brand identity is built on being community-focused and highly ethical. Yet, a Which comparison found that a standard 48-item shop at Co-op was 27% more expensive than Aldi. The source notes the deep hypocrisy here. Co-op actually charges its poorest customers significantly more, and they actively close stores in deprived areas while keeping them open in wealthy ones. And get this, they are remarkably the only major supermarket to charge a fee just to get a loyalty card. They're literally charging you for the privilege of giving them your personal data. And if you want a master class in how corporate ethics really work in practice, just look at Iceland's timeline on animal welfare. They made a big public splash, pledging to go completely cage-free for their eggs by 2025. But when that deadline actually rolled around in May and they realized it was going to cost them money, they quietly deleted the pledge from their website. It was only after intense PR pressure that they reinstated it in July, but they pushed the deadline back 2 full years. The investigation shows a very clear pattern here, prioritizing cost-cutting over their very public commitments to their customers. And look, even the top-tier premium brands aren't immune to these catastrophic systemic failures. Waitrose is pretty consistently ranked as the most expensive supermarket. You pay top dollar for the premium image, the pristine lighting, all of it. But recently, their high-end Deeside mineral water, which is sourced near Balmoral Castle, by the way, had to be urgently recalled. Why? Because production line failures meant there could be invisible glass shards floating around inside the bottles. It brilliantly illustrates the massive gap between having an expensive premium image and actually having reliable quality control. We also really need to debunk the biggest illusion of all, the idea of Iceland as the ultimate budget saver. The data on this is crystal clear. Buying a week's worth of Iceland ready meals for a family of 4 costs about £87, but that exact same family could eat far healthier, home-cooked meals using fresh ingredients from Aldi for just £64. The investigation firmly proves that Iceland is actually a nutritional and financial trap for families on tight budgets, cleverly disguised as everyday convenience. So, where does this actually leave us? Section 5, where you should shop instead. Let's look at some actionable alternatives. Look, the entire grocery system is fundamentally shifting, but at the end of the day, you still need to feed your family. Luckily, the investigation provides some highly actionable alternatives, based entirely on the data. Think of this as your new strategic cheat sheet. The era of the one-stop weekly shop, it's basically dead. To get the best results now, consumers need to divide and conquer, using different retailers for their specific strengths. You go to Aldi for bulk basics and meat, Lidl for their stellar bakery and variety, Marks & Spencer when you need premium trust and absolute quality, and Ocado for completely reliable online delivery. Let's break down exactly why. Starting with Aldi, just look at this number, 99.7%. That is the percentage of Aldi stores nationwide that boast a flawless 5-star hygiene rating. They were named Britain's cheapest supermarket in 2024 and 2025 by Which, and yet they maintain near-perfect cleanliness across the board. It proves that we as consumers absolutely do not have to choose between genuine financial value and clean, safe food. Plus, as we saw earlier with the chicken nuggets, their base quality is frequently far superior to the competition. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Marks & Spencer's. Now, M&S is undeniably expensive, but the data shows it's one of the very few places where premium pricing actually equates to strict, uncompromising safety. They've been voted the absolute best UK supermarket by Which for 5 consecutive years now. Former supply chain inspectors have even confirmed that M&S bypasses standard industry checks to enforce their own rigorous direct farm relationships. If you are going to pay a premium price, M&S is one of the few places actually delivering the goods. And if you're someone who really relies on online shopping, the data points straight to Ocado. While chains like Asda leave you frustrated with terrible substitutions picked by overworked store staff, Ocado operates purpose-built, online-only warehouses that are driven by advanced robotics. This highly efficient system results in a staggering 99% perfect order rate. You actually get what you ordered, right on time, with longer use-by dates, completely bypassing the utter chaos of those understaffed physical stores. And finally, we absolutely cannot forget the local alternative. As the source material really drives home, your local butchers, greengrocers, and farmers markets, they never play these corporate games. They never tried to sell you 18-day expired meat. They certainly didn't install police-linked facial recognition scanners at their front doors. And they offer complete transparency about exactly where their food comes from. Supporting them keeps your hard-earned money locally grounded, completely out of the hands of private equity firms that are just trying to extract wealth from your community. Which brings us to the end of our explainer, and I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. The major mega chains are essentially betting that you won't notice these failures. Or worse, that you just won't care enough to actually change your shopping habits. But now you have the data. With the entire system fundamentally changing right before our eyes, where will you choose to spend your grocery budget this week? Thank you